What's up, everybody? Jason Bound from Hard Money Bankers, Ian Horowitz from Equity Warehouse. Happy, what's the day? Tuesday? Happy Tuesday to everybody. I forgot what day it was because a lot of times we record on Wednesdays, but happy Tuesday to everybody. If you're just tuning in for the first time to the Real Estate Reserve podcast, welcome. We promise we'll keep it entertaining and you might learn something as well related to business, marketing, real estate, things like that. If you are a return viewer, follower, listener, welcome back. We truly appreciate all the support. You've helped us grow this podcast into a great weekly show that we're able to bring on great guests that are doing real deals and things like that. In a second, we're going to bring on Tyler from TruSteel Buildings, somebody that Ian knows from the self-storage space. Again, Ian's a little bit more of an expert in the self-storage investing than I am. I understand the finance side of it. I do have some involvement on the self-storage side, but Ian's the expert in that space. So, maybe I'll learn something along the way as well.
Yeah, well, you never know what you're going to learn. And that's why we do all this fun stuff. Guys, if you get any value out of the show, we don't do this for money. We do it because we like bringing in real people that do real deals, our vendors, our investors, people that we highly respect in the industry that we bring on here. They're not here to sell anything. They're just here to share their experience. So if you get any value out of it, feel free to share your experience with others by, liking, sharing, or leaving us a review. So I just want to say before we bring Tyler on, I'm coming off a pretty big high. Just wrapped up our mastermind event in New Orleans. I have no desire to go back to that city, but it was a really good time where we had 15 to 20 high-level real estate investors in a room talking about life, business, storage, and everything in between. And we got a chance to tour a buddy of ours, Tony's facility, which was pretty cool to go out and check out. So it was a really good time. So I just want to put that out there. Thanks for everyone that attended. Looking forward to the next one. It is invite only, and our next one's going to be in Dallas in March. So should be a fun one. So either way, man, it's other than that, not much going on. I think we should bring Tyler on, who was just telling us that it's about to snow in Michigan. So better get him on before it decides to snow here. And let's talk to Tyler.
Tyler, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Doing great. Why don't you just give us a quick background, a little bit about yourself?
So I started doing the storages in 2011. I was at a company many years, building them all over. Probably worked in over 30 states. And then about a month ago, I transferred to a different company for better opportunities. So.
No doubt. Yeah. Makes sense. So tell us a little bit what TruSteel does.
So same thing. They supply the building materials. We also have erectors that we use. Storage is our big one, but we do the big span buildings, conversions, 2 stories, 3 stories. Not so much of the concrete work or excavating. We can give you references, but we try to stay away from that.
Yeah. No, I mean, dude, so like you're in a position which is interesting, and I kind of relate it to like where Jason is in the market as a lender. Jason gets to see everybody's deals from like the inside out. So let's just say we have a store, like a piece of property that we're looking to develop some buildings on, and myself as the operator, I'm like, hey man, I think buildings should go like this. Like, where in the process should someone get you guys involved to start looking at their facility to say, hey, this is the best opportunity for buildings, or, you need to go consult an engineer? I don't really know. Like, what does that look like?
Yeah, so you can do that a couple different ways. So we actually do have a guy in-house who does the site plans. You'll send over your property. We'll give you the best layout that we think. Then, also see what you can get approved for to do there. The retention ponds, that's a big one because depending on where you're at, they make you do an extremely huge one, or you can get away with doing a small one. So that really has a lot to do with it as well.
Yeah, well, I was saying up here in the Northeast, it's very densely populated. So I just assume every time we build, we need to put a retention pond in. But then we go down to middle of nowhere, Mississippi, And some places down there, like building permits, what's that? It's
Right.
interesting. So, I mean, you work in 30, you said you've worked in 30 different states. Like, what would you say your favorite state to operate is in?
Oh, pretty much all become the same, but I'd probably say Tennessee.
Tennessee's a good
Why
one.
why it's just easier?
Yeah, you don't really, they don't put you through the ringer for everything. You don't have an inspector showing up every other day telling you how to do your job, and just a lot.
Yeah, I love when inspectors show up, and then you got to remind them, is like, hey man, there's a reason you're an inspector and you don't own a contracting company anymore, man.
Yeah.
Like, it's funny, dude. It's everywhere. Sometimes in Baltimore City, we're like, oh my God, we just deal with like so much shit. But you get out there, it is interesting to see that every jurisdiction has its own issues.
Then, depending on where you're at, they make you get really fancy with it. Some of them require you to have brick on the end of your building. They tell you what color doors you can have. They make the overhang on the roof. It has to be a certain amount of inches, and they get really picky about it, depending on.
Yeah.
I guess, and I don't know if Tyler or Ian's kind of the best one to answer this, but let's talk about kind of like if you're building a ground up storage facility in general, because it's been a common question that I've gotten in the lending space, where folks have reached out to us that normally we've done loans for on existing buildings or listing structures and facilities, and they're saying, hey, I own this land, or I want to buy the land, and I want to build something up ground up. And personally, I don't have experience with it. I don't even know where you start. Like, let's say you have a piece of land in mind, and I think Ian, you kind of alluded to this question earlier. Like, what's the next step? Do you figure out the building material, getting building materials, or do you get permits in place?
Oh yeah, first you got to make sure you're even approved to even do storage there, which normally you got to go to a couple meetings, and you got to make sure you can get approved before all that stuff.
Yeah, so generally you're going to want to get the zoning approval first, and then after the zoning approval, then what? Usually you're going to get zoning approvals. You're going to have your site plan set. You're going to have talk to you already about like, what does the building look like? What's the elevations going to look like? What colors? All that fun stuff. Then after all those approvals come from, then we can finally get our building permits. And once we get our building permits, that's when Tyler and team come in. Correct?
Does the zoning approval tell you how big you can build on? Is that the approval for that? Like how many levels, how big, how far off from your whatever your boundaries? I mean, are you getting boundary surveys and things like that at that point, or not, or is that kind of not necessary? Like, I'm trying to just walk it through somebody who's trying to build their first storage facility. How do they know how much they can build? Square footage wise, what's kind of the steps and the processes in order to do?
You do all that zoning, they will tell you what your maximum square feet you're allowed to build.
Yeah, you got lot coverage. I mean, Jason being down in Maryland with the Bay, impervious coverage becomes an issue. All those fun things. Actually, I got a funny story out in Hattiesburg, Mississippi, of all places. Everywhere in Mississippi, you're basically like, you could do whatever you want. And then the one town we're in, they're like, no, we got zoning compliance. We want you to pave the lot. I'm like, every other jurisdiction in America is so worried about like lot coverage. And here you are wanting me to pave the whole site. Like, this is insane. So it's just funny how like it just kind of goes around and around and around all across the country, so. But
they're wanting you to spend more money than necessary.
Yeah, well, the problem is like when you pave at a facility, it's non-producing. Like, you're not producing any income with that pavement. I'm better off putting up buildings and then paving between the buildings, to then get being able to maximize the dollar amount of what I'm putting on the ground. So, real quick, Mitch Pater, he has a very good point. If you're looking to develop storage facilities, one thing you want to do up front is get a feasibility study. The feasibility study is going to identify the amount of storage and the type of storage and the unit mix that you're going to want to develop. And then usually you can hand that rate to someone like Tyler and say, hey, Tyler, like, this is what I'm thinking. Where do you think my costs are going to be? Cool. I'm all right with that cost. Then you can go back to your zoning and planning committee with elevations and all your building plans and go from there. So that's a very good point that you might want to go out and get a feasibility study first, which, you know what, I might have to reach out to someone who I know and have her come on and talk about that, because they are very, very important and can dictate what your storage facility looks like. So, yeah, actually, one question I was going to ask you, you were talking about different types of buildings and all the different stuff. Like, what have you seen in the way of wind? Have you seen like building types change, like requirements to the buildings? Because I know insurance has been insanely high trying to get stuff in high wind areas. Have you seen much change in the building envelope that they're requiring?
All just depends on location and, snow load, what the wind is there. So that all just depends on the location. Every state, town, city, it's all different. So you can have a facility 3 hours apart and, they're going to be different.
Yeah. And I think that's one big thing that people should watch out for. There's something to be said about developing in the South versus developing in the North where it snows, right? Like you got snow load calculations for your roof. You got insulation, different requirements. You might have different footer requirements for the concrete that you're putting down, right? Some of the places I just watch people put concrete down. I'm like, man, that must be nice. You didn't even have to dig anything. Right. So, does your company handle the concrete from the get-go, or what is?
Nope, we don't do anything with the concrete. We typically just tell people to go with someone local, and we get them foundation plans, whatever they need to help them out. But yeah, we don't have nothing to do with the concrete or the excavating.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. So you guys literally just drop the buildings and erect them. There's still going to be cost outside of that you need to account for. What has the steel market done? And I know this is kind of like, I know I'm just rapid firing. I'm going through every question I've had that I've wanted to ask a building supplier for the longest time. What does that look like? What is steel futures were insanely high. Now they're back down. Like what is that doing to the cost of our buildings?
Yeah. Prices right now are really good. I mean, they've been the best that they've been in a long time. So, I mean, let's just say ballpark, just your normal plain Jane 40 by 200 building, screw down roof, this is a ballpark number, material, labor, about $15 all in.
$15 all in?
Yeah, and that's non-climate, that's just, just basic 40 by 200.
No shit.
Screw down roof, galvanized framing. We don't really try to mess with any of the red iron just because it rusts and it's just not a good look. So
yeah, that all makes sense. What I know you said screw down roof. What do you see people more going standing seam? Like, is that the way to go nowadays? Like, what in the way of roof?
So, I mean, if you plan on owning the facility and, not just building it to flip it, standing seam obviously is the way to go. It's just a way better roof, but you get a lot of people, they just want to build a massive site and try to flip it. So they go with screw down just because it's cheaper. But I mean, if it's installed correctly and, people actually run their mastic and do the dog ears, then you shouldn't have any issue with it leaking. So,
yeah, well, it's all, we all pray that it doesn't leak. Wasn't there a screw shortage? I think there was a screw shortage during COVID at one point where people couldn't get screws for roofs. And then I was like, man, I should just buy a CNC machine and crank them out. That'd be amazing. But it's just funny, you never know what you're going to run out of. Do you guys make your own doors or do you buy them from a third-party supplier?
Yeah, so we use Janus or TrackRite, whatever the customer prefers. So we use Janus or TrackRite. Those are the ones that we go with.
Nice. What?
Wait, just because I'm curious. So you're not just supplying the materials; you're doing the labor on these on these as well. So someone would retain your company, TruSteel, to do everything, or maybe not everything, but like hey, I want to build this thing. In the residential space, typically they'll get general contractor or home builder or something like that. Is that equivalent?
Yeah, so I mean, so say you guys buy the building from us, we'll give you labor price as well, and then we got guys that we subcontract work to that have been erecting this 15 plus years, and they'll be there the day your job unloads. They'll get it unloaded and working that day as long as no concrete's ready. Which that's been a big thing with us lately is we got buildings coming in and people aren't, they don't even have concrete ready. So
Yeah. So that $15 is getting you the building package. It's not that, and that's including putting it up in the air, or no?
yeah, yeah, and erecting, just ballpark, but that's
Yeah, no. I'm sure everyone's gonna watch this video and be like, "Well, I want it for $14.99 because you said
right.
15, right?"
Wait, that's 15 what foot?
$15 a square foot. But
Sounds
dude,
reasonable.
that's no electric.
But I
Dude,
don't know.
it's
Right, that's
cheap, but
Yeah.
building material, labor for non-climate. If you climate control right now, which it all just depends how fancy you're getting with it, but your basic climate control building, probably 16 to 22, right in that.
So let's say a 1-story garage with mini storage. I don't even know what you call that. With just a regular garage. One floor. It's everything. So it's 15 a foot. Everything. Let's say the pad's already what's concrete down. Is that these things just sit on the top of concrete?
Now I think.
So let's say all the concrete's down. It's everything except minimal utilities, which is electric. I guess just electric if it's not climate control, right? And then everything except that in garages.
Yeah,
That's
no,
what
I
it
mean,
includes.
yeah, it includes your roofs, your doors. That includes us coming in, building it.
oh, I'm trying to.
Ballpark. So, for instance, we just priced a gentleman in Michigan last week. He was 34,000 square feet, just basic non-climate buildings, and we come in just a squelch over 15 a square foot.
You're talking about this type of building right here, just standard drive up.
Yep, 9x7 doors. Yep.
And then this would be a climate type building. This one we just happen to have some non-climate on the outside. Interior hallway here, a building like this. You're saying a single story building without the HVAC, electric, just the building and insulated. You could probably drop that for about $20 a foot ish.
Yeah, ballpark is yes. All depending on location and everything else that goes in with it.
Interesting. I don't know,
good.
man. My thesis as of recent's been do a little more development. So it's
keep that picture back up there. And if you're just tuning in and you're listening to this on audio only, you won't be able to see it. But if you're on audio only through iTunes or something like that, go to realestatereservepodcast.com and you'll be able to check this out. If you're watching this on video, Ian's going through one of his Squarespace storage facilities just to use as a representation on kind of what we're talking about.
go
ahead.
Can you do high bay like RV stuff like this?
Oh yeah, we can do 12 by 14, whatever you want.
Yeah, I mean we have a site that's got all high bay stuff,
and those are a lot popular. I've realized past couple of years is boat and RV.
Yeah, I'd say this is one of our better performing sites. It's all high bay stuff. It's got some interior climate on it. But contractors, RV, it's got multiple uses.
Right.
And it does pretty well. The only thing that when this guy developed this, I didn't like, these are all chain operated doors. So they got a door here to go in and chain operate them, which is not
those those chains always get caught up on those brackets, and it's it's such a pain. And I always tell everybody once you get to a certain height, 14 foot tall, I mean, they can do the roll up doors those tall, but they're not designed to be that tall. You're better off going with the garage door. I mean, it costs a little bit more in the end, but they operate so much better.
Yeah, no, that definitely makes sense. What speaking of mistakes, like what's the number one mistake you see besides my messy office behind me? Like what's the number one mistake that you see developers do when they're trying to build these type of buildings, or what do you think it is?
The concrete guys don't know how to pour the concrete pads, which that happens, and we always make that work.
What, they're not square? The pads?
No, not necessarily that. It's always the lip on the outside that throws everybody off for the doors. But I mean, if you got a concrete guy who has poured, these pads a lot, then obviously he knows what's going on. But I would say concrete is the biggest. Getting that lip right on the outside. What else?
Is there any? I mean, obviously you're the best. Yeah, I'm sure you say, "Oh, I got the best metal company out there." But then my question would be like, is there any hiccups in like the packages, like when we're looking at, hey Tyler, we want this type of building, and then like someone's like, oh, I always want this, and you're like, nah, man, that's just like an operational nightmare. Is there like any pitfalls we should watch out, from the building side of things, like when we're ordering buildings from you?
Yeah, that's a good question. Hmm. I would say, which I don't really know if this answers it, but I'd say, unit mixes on layouts is probably a big one. You get a lot of people, oh, I want 5x5 units, and that's not even going to serve a purpose. That unit's not going to be good to anybody. So I would say the layout, like I always try to tell everybody, depending on where you're at, 10x10s, 10x15s, and 10x20s are the three best. You get 10x25s as well, 10x30s. The bigger ones, your 12x40 units, you got to be in a pretty good location, because obviously it's going to be big RVs in there or nice boats. So I would definitely say the unit mix has a big part to do with it.
Ian, how do you do? And if Tyler knows the answer, he can obviously chime in too. How do you determine what, like in your facilities, Ian, like what unit mix is best for a particular site?
I pray to God that the guy that built it before us built the right thing. No, I mean, when you see like a lot of 5x5 units, I just automatically red flag high turnover, high auction rate. Yes, higher price per square foot, but higher drama 9 times out of 10. So I prefer, if I see a lot of 5x5 units on site, hey, let's remove a wall. Let's turn this into a 5x10 or a 10x10. Like, what can we do if we need to take some 5x5s offline? We have a site where the guy went and took it's a 40-foot wide building, and he just blew out doors and put hallways down, and they're all 5x8s or 8x8s and 5x5 units in these hallways. And I'm like, well, they're not leasing, they're high drama. Let's take them offline. We were getting broken into all the time on these units because the way the hallways were set up. So we took them offline, and as we're gaining occupancy, we're gutting them out. We're putting the door back in, and we're doing 10x20 or 10x40 units, depending what they are. We have options there. So I would say from the unit mix standpoint, I agree with Tyler to get away from them, unless you're doing a climate controlled building, 5x5 units. Someone's willing to pay an insanely high amount, price per square foot, to store family heirlooms. It's a little different story in the climate controlled buildings than it is in the non-climate. Other than that, like oddball sizes, you just got to question yourself, what's going to be stored here? What kind of drama am I going to have in this building if we store stuff here? So I'd say 5x5 is, I agree, a major pitfall in my opinion. So, and what else is, I would ask you about this. Do you get anyone that in the climate buildings that do those like little 3x5 units, try stuffing every little corner that they can?
Yeah. And they do them, like you said, and they get more for them, but it's good for, I guess, someone, at a doctor's office or whatever, to store files and stack boxes, and and at work, because they may only have 8 units like that, but then you get the ones that want to go crazy and get 30 or 40 of them, and it just never ends up working. You got to go back, start tearing walls down to start making a bigger unit for them.
Jason, where do you store all your files for your lending company?
It's in a storage facility up the street.
In a climate control storage facility. That's right.
It's I'm trying to think how big it's at least 10x10, and darn, prices have doubled since we started.
Well, you're renting from Extra Space, right? I mean, they're going to just continue to drive rates on you until you move out the door. That's the brand.
I haven't been over there in years.
Yeah. Well,
ching,
it's good to know.
ching.
My files are safe and secure. Yeah, man. I mean, it's a simple business, right? And I think people take that for granted. In exchange, it's easy business. But I mean, there's a lot. And Tyler, you're very humble. Like, you're just like, oh, yeah, it's not a big deal. Just fucking toss up a building. You know what I mean? Like, there is a lot of planning that goes into tossing up a building. So, and I don't think people are, I hope everyone's picking up what he's putting down, and he's being very nonchalant about it. So I appreciate that. But there's a lot of shit that goes into building this. What, you know, like, I mean, zoning and planning could take several months or a year or 2 years, right? So how long does it take to get a building from, you know, so like we've waited a year or 2 years and we're like, all right, we're itching to get our shit done. How long does it take to get a building from you guys delivered and up?
So right now our lead times we're about 8 to 10 weeks, and then it all just depends on the size of the building for our guys to build it. I mean, most of our crews, weather's good. You know, they're averaging about 1,000 square feet a day. They start working in the winter. Obviously, it's cold and miserable. They're about 600-700 square feet a day.
Yeah, and you guys are rolling the steel in your own plant, right? Is that what you
No,
guys call it?
no, we use a couple different other manufacturing companies that we buy metal from.
Okay, so they're rolling it out, and then you're getting it shipped, and you guys are making sure it goes in. Got it. So
Yep.
yeah, it makes sense. Man, there was something else I was just going to ask you. Sorry, I get so excited. All these questions start popping in my head. Damn it.
Did you want to ask him a question related to building you a aircraft hangar?
No, that's what I was going to ask you. Thank you. I was going to ask you, like, what else can we use metal buildings for, right? Like, everybody immediately thinks storage. I'm at, just so you know, this is my in-laws' old business that we bought. They used to sell and service outdoor power equipment. We got a metal building out front that nobody can see that used to be the warehouse with 2 sliding barn doors. Like, what else can you use metal buildings for? Like, where else are people applying your metal building skills to, and how else can we use them?
Yeah, so actually right now we're actually pricing a couple of those airplane hangars. Those are starting to become very popular too, which is crazy, but a lot of people like them. Just simple as it is, just a roof, and people can pull under there and park.
Yep, T hangers. What about like clear span? Like, you guys do clear span buildings, I'm assuming too?
Yep.
What's the largest clear span building we could do?
I think I would have to check on that, but I know a good size for a good amount of money, about 80 wide by 100. Those are coming in at really good numbers right now.
80 by 100. What was that?
Yep.
8,000 square feet. I mean, that's pretty big clear span.
So that that means just straight out and wide with nothing in between.
No poles in the middle.
No,
Jesus,
that's
big huge.
Well, you put soccer fields, right? Your girls play soccer. Right. People put them up and stack them together and put a bunch of soccer fields in them.
80 by 100. That is a soccer field. A full soccer field almost. A football field.
Yeah, it's big, dude.
So I do know we priced a gentleman for one that size, and he was out in Illinois, and he come in at 16 something a square foot.
That's crazy, man. See, there's something still affordable in this country. I'm so excited. So, what, you a Detroit Lions fan?
Oh yeah, now that they're doing good.
Now that they're good, yeah, right. Years of horribleness. I like them. Good underdog team, but
yeah,
it's all right over here in Philly for a minute. It's a good sports town right now. So, but yeah, man. No, I think it's cool, and I think. I've been looking at some small bay flex industrial type stuff. How can you apply metal buildings into that use case scenario? Contractor buildings, storage in general is obvious. Do you guys do anything with like the covered RV storage at all?
Yeah, yep, we do. We haven't done a whole lot of them, but we've had a couple people that we've put some numbers on some things for, so we're just waiting for them to get back in touch.
Nice. All right. Yeah, I like it. What I don't know, man. I'm just amazed because here we're out here buying storage facilities, $30, $40, $50 a foot. Yes, land acquisition. We're buying an in-place business. We're trying to renovate it, and get it cash flowing again, but here you are saying, oh man, it's easy enough. Just let's go get some plans and put a building up for $15 a foot. It makes you think, how much of a deal are we getting with an existing storage facility and all the drama that comes with it versus building something brand new? I get it. Your drama is just in a different place. Your drama is with zoning and planning and trying to get these things erected and trying to get them and financed. So really do appreciate your insight on all of it, man. So
absolutely.
Yeah. Do you go to any of the big storage trade shows? I'm assuming, if people want to find you.
I normally go out to the one in Las Vegas in April, which I think Dustin's going to be out there again this year. So
yeah, dude, they need to move that show. Going to fucking Vegas, it's just it kills me, dude. Kills me.
After 3 days, I got to get the hell out of there.
Yeah, I'm usually good for one good night, and it's like gotta go. So and then we got to trek all the way back to the East Coast, which is a bitch. But yeah, I'm gonna throw this one out there. We ask all of our guests this, and since you were bold enough to come on here, I'll ask you also. What is one book or podcast that you listen to right now that you think everybody should listen, check out, YouTube, anything like where someone could learn something or something that you enjoy?
Man, I don't even know if I should say it, but he's kind of an interesting fella. So I more just watch it to see what he rattles on about. But his name's Justin Waller. He owns Red Iron Construction or something like that.
Yeah, he's the one like the blue collar challenge, go buy guys beers and shit. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know how I feel about the guy. I don't know. He's always doing something crazy. So I just get on there and watch him rattle on about all his shit.
Yeah, man, you never know. You pick up a nugget here and there. So.
Yeah.
All right, man. Well, we appreciate your time. Where's the best place someone wants to reach out and have them, have you look at one of their sites, or they want to get a quote from you for building? Where's the best place to find you?
Well, besides Facebook, probably my email, Tyler@TruSteelBuildings.com.
Okay, we'll get that in the show notes for everyone so they can track you down.
Cool. Yeah, I'm good on my end. I think you gave me a good amount of information, as well as I'm sure everybody listening was kind of very intrigued. I mean, a lot of folks, you don't know what happens kind of behind the scenes, right, especially if you've never built new, ground up storage facilities or a ground out building in the past. It's just like, hey, I'm buying this existing facility and everything's just here ready to go. And I think there's a lot more that goes behind the scenes, and it's just like, building a custom house compared to kind of a prefab house of, listen, we can do the high end thing. We can do the low end way. We can do somewhere in the middle. Like, what's going to make the most sense? Based on the situation, but it's also good to know that steel prices have come down a little bit. So as the market shift and maybe somebody's paying a little bit more for the land than they want, they can make it up kind of on the back end with the steel prices. And maybe it's cheaper to build a new facility than it is to build an existing facility. So it's all things to take into consideration.
Yes, absolutely. And sometimes, new build projects, sometimes they go smoothly, and sometimes, people get put through the ringer and they make them go through, every hoop, and before they can get approved to build, this big massive site, which, Mitchell Pater, he knows what I'm talking about on that. So he knows how that process works.
Yeah, I watched him. He posts some good content. I'll have to track him down. Tell him he needs to come on the podcast.
Yeah,
he's still listening, Mitchell, because I've been trying to track you down. I want to hear about some of your ground up development stuff you've been doing. I invited him to the mastermind, but he turned us down. So it's all good. We'll track him down.
When he builds too, he goes all out. He don't just build the little ones. So
I like it. All right. Well, we'll get him. We'll get his ass on here for us, and we'll I'd love to hear about it and case study one of his properties. So appreciate you, Tyler. We'll get all your contact info in the show notes.
Okay, perfect. Appreciate you guys.
Yeah,
all right, take care. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks for tuning in to the Real Estate Reserve podcast. Do us a favor and like, comment, and share our broadcast. It helps the algorithm and helps us spread the word too. Till next time, thank you for tuning in.